So welcome back, and we delve right into it and the news review segment, and we're joined on the line by lawyer Bobby Bansin, who will be helping us review the news making the waves in the country. Lawyer Bobby Bansin, welcome to the AM show.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers. And happy
Good
New Year.
morning
Thanks
and happy New Year to you too.
Hopefully this year would bring less drama in our socio-economic and political space. So we focus on the things that matter more.
Well, we hope so, but the drama has already started, don't you think? With the OSP and...
Well, let's see how it will go. I have some views about it, but let's see.
Well, then let's start off right from it. You've seen it. What's your opinion about it?
The OSP's test report on the attempted bribery of the majority. Can you hear me?
I can. If you could reposition yourself a bit so you don't break.
Okay. Hope it's better now.
Perfect.
I read it I read the report itself. I would want to state from my opinion, the OSP is not there to persecute. He's there to prosecute in the context of his enabling acts. And the OSP would conduct investigations before putting petty things. He has evidence of or against, or evidence of them conducting or engaging in the crime that the OSP is empowered by law to prosecute. So after his investigations, if he has evidence that these persons have committed a crime and he would be able to secure it, that is what influences the OSP's decision. If you look at the reports that he has issued over time, those that he has decided to prosecute, those he has decided to drop, you'd notice that coming from the background of a criminal defense lawyer with his private practice and his chain of law, I think that he's influenced more of, if there is a 50% chance, I will not go for prosecution. That is how I see the spirit behind his reports. I think that he would decide to go for prosecution if him and his team, after studying the evidence they have, are convinced that there is perhaps 90 to 10% chance that he would. And so Ghanaians generally may not be happy some of the allegations that are brought to his attention or some of the issues that he decides to investigate. I think that we should be a little bit measured with the way we attack him when he comes to his report of, I'm not holding brief for him, but I'm also looking at it from the perspective of in criminal law, in criminal prosecution, there's this golden rule that it is better to let 1,000 guilty people walk free than to convict an innocent person. And so if you have the OSP from his investigations, and I don't think that we are attempting to direct the OSP how to do his work in terms of the investigation. If we have the OSP saying, listen, I heard this member of parliament saying on national television that some persons attempted to corrupt them. I invited this member of parliament. The member of parliament refuses to give me details to enable me build a docket that I'm confident that I will procure a conviction. And I cannot, even though I have the powers, the OSP admitted that he has the powers to subpoena these persons to give evidence. But we all know in practice, if you have a witness that is supposed to be your star witness, who is refusing to give you the needed evidence that you will need, especially in criminal law, you find yourself wanting, because a multitude of suspicion in criminal law does not amount to evidence. This is not civil litigation that you say that it is on the balance of probability. In criminal law, the burden of proof is beyond reasonable doubt and is very high. And so if the OSP thinks that there is still some doubt as to the evidence or the allegation that this named or this person, who we don't know the name, has attempted to bribe the majority caucus, and he may not be able to procure a conviction, he may exercise his discretion not to commence any criminal prosecution of that person. You see, the Attorney General's Department or the Attorney General sometimes also issues opinions that does not recommend prosecution of some matters where they think that there's no evidence, because they may not want to invest state resources to attempt a prosecution that they know may not be successful. I think that they will rather focus on the ones that they are sure there's the likelihood of conviction. If they themselves are not confident of procuring conviction, they will exercise their discretion not to commence any prosecution at all. Remember, the law gives the OSP that discretion. And just like the Attorney General's Department, that sometimes in our practice issues opinions to ask police not to prosecute, or they decide not to prosecute because they do not have sufficient evidence, unless we are trying to say that the OSP is influenced by other factors, for which reason he decides to prosecute some people and not prosecute other persons. But I do not think that we've had evidence, apart from, again, mere allegations made by certain persons in the community or the society or in the country, that the OSP is influenced by other factors. My only wish or my drawback from that report was that I was hoping that the OSP would have mentioned the name of this businessman. But the report that I read, I don't know whether you have the name, but the report that I read, the name of that businessman has been blotted out. And I asked myself, hoping himself to any liability if he had mentioned the name. After all, it's in his report. And he's not saying the person has committed the offense. He's saying that these were the allegations that were made. My investigations revealed that this is the person who made that allegation, but I do not have evidence to prosecute the person who that alleged bribery, participated or were approached with the attempted bribery, have refused to collaborate. But he did, for reasons best known to him, he did not mention the name of that person. Perhaps he was looking at maybe reputational damage. He said, okay, I say I will not prosecute. If I mention his name, have I already put him down public as being somebody who is attempted to bribe majority caucus? Will the reputational damage done to the person be one that can be reversed in any manner or by any form? So perhaps he has considered all of these things before issued that report. So that is my appreciation of the report by the OSP.
Well, Bobby, let me put this question by Vitus Azeem, who is an anti-corruption campaigner, and he's asking, can the Office of the Special Prosecutor compel the people to give the evidence? Doesn't he have the power to compel them to do so?
Like I said, he has the power to ask those people to be subpoenaed. But let me tell you, if you subpoena somebody who is not ready to talk, the person will go and stand in the dock. Every question that he is asked, he can choose to say, I don't know, I don't remember. The court cannot put words in the mouth of a witness. The OSP cannot put words in the mouth of a witness. If you subpoena the person and the person does not come, the person may be liable for contempt. If the person chooses to come, the Constitution says that we all have, or every person that appears in court cannot be forced to say anything he's not. He can refuse to say anything at all. He can. So if the person is subpoenaed, the person goes to court. Sorry. And then you ask the person a question, you said, I don't remember. I don't remember. You can only create that, or public will only see that the person is trying to hide something. But will it procure the prosecution that the OSP wants? The answer is no. And so if the person clearly says, listen, I am not ready to speak, I will not speak. If you subpoena me, I will not speak. What else can the OSP do? The OSP cannot put words in the mouth of the person. And so, yes, the OSP can subpoena the person but the OSP cannot compel the person to say what the OSP wants that person to say. So it's akin to the situation of you can force so if you've been in practice, then you would appreciate some of these difficulties that the OSP would have. We've had cases where persons who are willing to provide evidence, the OSP is prosecuting those cases. In this instance, the key witnesses are not willing to give me the information needed. I think that it is fair to those persons involved and the state in the long run, because you see, it is not just about, oh, prosecute. You would also have to think of the financial implications of the prosecution. So if SB thinks that there are matters that he stands a higher chance of procuring conviction, maybe the exercise discretion to do that. If there are matters that he thinks that he stands a lower chance of procuring conviction, maybe he would exercise his discretion, issue the report, people to know he actually attempted to do his work, but he's been frustrated by some of these roadblocks.
Well, Bobby, the key witness, Andy Appiah, could be in an interview with my colleague Evans Mens on PM Express sometime last 2 years, made some confessions about this businessman, attempting to bribe a majority of the MPs. Does this not hold any water in this case?
Those were statements not made in a courtroom. They were not made on oath. The Evidence Act says that evidence that must be admitted in court are evidence made on oath. So the OSP can go to court with this news reportage as the basis of this prosecution. Now, the fact that the OSP was not the person who this businessman attempted to bribe means that the OSP will only be presenting hearsay evidence, because he can only present that statement made by Mr. Appiah as evidence or as a statement made by Mr. Appiah on air. But he cannot present that statement as evidence that indeed the businessman attempted to bribe the majority caucus. And so there are a lot of technical nuances in the evidence that can be provided in support of a criminal prosecution. So yes, we all heard it, but it is made outside courtroom. And if the said Appiah could be the person who made those statements outside the courtroom, decides not to repeat those statements in the courtroom, the OSP can only bring it up as you said this. But I changed my mind. I was given a wrong. What can the OSP, unless we are asking the OSP to prosecute Mr. Appiah Kubina, Andy Kubina, unless we are asking the OSP to prosecute him, the MPs, for maybe, I don't know what. I don't know whether the enabling act of the OSP would allow him to prosecute him for making those statements. And so there are quite technical issues arising out of the weight to be put on those kind of statements which are made outside the courtroom, and the fact that the person who made those statements is being prosecuted and has decided not to repeat those statements in a court of law in fostering a prosecution.
Well noted, Bobby. And let's move on to another topic. The flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, has been making so much noise about his 24-hour economic policy. And recently he just said that he'll be signing up for a 24-hour system which will help accomplish his vision, including, creating jobs for the youth in the security sector, so that they'll be providing protection for businesses who will be launching onto this 24-hour vision. What do you make of this? I mean, for your law firm, would you like to operate a 24-hour service to benefit from this?
Listen, I don't think that it's fair to the former president to say he's making noise about this. I think that he's telling Ghanaians what his primary vision, if he's given the second opportunity to rule this country or to govern this country, would be. And day in, day out, he's giving, like lawyers would say, further and better particulars of this vision. I think that if our politics go towards this direction, where it becomes a campaign of issues and policies, it will benefit the electorate to make an informed decision. So it's not a campaign of insults or tribalism or anything that will detract from the purpose of this democratic dispensation we have. And so let's give the former president the platform to espouse this vision that he's saying. And I believe that those who would buy into it, if he's given the opportunity to become the next president in 2025, would exercise their right to sign up to this. I think that if we have somebody who says, this is what I want to do, these are the effects that I think it will have on the economy, let's listen. At least let's listen. And then if majority of Ghanaians decide to give him that opportunity, then those who would want to subscribe to it would do that. The question of whether I will subscribe to it, I think that if he's in power, then I can answer that question.
All right, let's go to the Daily Graphic now. Medical doctors, are saying that practicing medical doctors in Ghana are to use Dr. Med or Dr. Dentist, respectively, as their new designations effective this year, as in it started January 1. The reason for adding the Med and the Dent to their titles, according to the association, is to help enhance patients' rights, patient safety, and quality healthcare, among others. What do you make of this decision by the Ghana Medical Association?
So that they differentiate perhaps from the book doctors and doctors that are awarded or conferred on for other reasons apart from exhibiting some form of academic genuity or astuteness. I don't know whether it would have the impact that they are seeking to have, apart from what I have said. But let's see, if it's their right, it's their right. Like lawyers are allowed to write ESQ at the end of their name. If doctors think that they are entitled to that as well, let them use it. At the end of the day, what we are looking for is them providing the services that will benefit Ghanaians. So I really not bothered what name they choose to call themselves. If you add Med or DNT to your name, and I think in a lot of developed countries, even those titles are really not used. They are not required. I personally do not see any additional value that it will bring to you if you do not perform the services to the best of your ability, the services that name that you want to, or that title you want to add to your name is saying that you should perform. And so if they want us to address them that way because they've earned it, yes, it's their right, and we would respect that wish accordingly.
But does it really make any difference to your healthcare? Does it, for you as a patient?
That's what I said, that for me, it just acts the same way if the person calls himself lawyer so and so and so, and it doesn't add any anything, it doesn't affect the quality of the services. But you see, you have recently, I saw those who were even standing for the district assembly elections. That is, those who are not incumbents, those that are now trying to be elected. If you see their posters, they were adding honorable to their names. They have not yet been elected, but their posters, they're already adding honorable to their names. And so we are a society where maybe we are a lot interested in these titles. But like you said, I do not think you can call yourself all of that, but if you do not provide the services to the best or to the welfare of the persons for which you want to be addressed like that, then what have you gained? Like they say.
Right, Bobby. And just before you go, the president has sworn in 3 justices to the Supreme Court: Justice Henry Anthony Kofi, Justice Yalda Kwansari, and Justice Richard J. Frimpong in a ceremony at the Jubilee House. And this, he says, is in fulfillment of Article 144, Clause 2 of the 1992 Constitution. I mean, these, recent swearing in of justices to the Supreme Court has brought about some, kind of debate about pushing too many justices into the Supreme Court. Do you agree?
No, I have never subscribed to that, at least in the current context. I think that those that make that argument, either influenced by politics or merely saying that, if you look at the facts, as it stands now, until these three were added, there were I think there were only 12 judges of the Supreme Court, 12 judges of the Supreme Court, handling almost 400 or 500 cases. Only 12, and the Supreme Court panel is minimum five per panel. And so what it means is that if they sit in five, so you have only two panels of the Supreme Court handling all these cases. It's untenable. They cannot. And people say the president has appointed, the president has appointed. The question I ask myself, if you look at the history, the president only appoints mostly when somebody is retiring. That is why he came to office in 2017, till date, he has appointed so many judges to the Supreme Court, but we now only have 15. And out of these 15, he didn't even appoint all of them. Some he came to meet. And so it is not as if that he had intentionally set out to pack. I mean, yes, I agree that there should be some form of regulation as to that, but in the current scheme of things, I think those who make that argument, with all due respect, are not being fair to the Supreme Court in terms of the workload and what ought to be done to ensure efficiency. Because you have people complaining, well, when you file a case in the Supreme Court, these days, they don't even give a date. You have to wait for them to, yes, because they don't have the numbers. So what do you expect them to do? And so I hope that the addition of these three very, very fine legal brains would reduce the workload on the existing judges, and they will also contribute to the development of the jurisprudence that we have. I have had the privilege of practicing before them at the various levels of the High Court and the Court of Appeal, and I'm very confident in their capacity and their capability to contribute to the legal jurisprudence of this country.
Well, there's this interesting story on My Joy Online, and it says the executive director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, says there is a likelihood that junior high school students may have to take the BECE without access to any textbooks. According to him, there has been a shift in the curriculum since the finalization of the Common Core curriculum by government. And he's emphasizing that the Common Core curriculum did not reach finalization on the same day as the primary school curriculum, And he stated that the first batch of students using the Common Core curriculum would be sitting for the BECE next year, But then he's emphasizing that if efforts are not made to provide textbooks between now and June, these students might be writing without seeing any textbooks. And as you know, there's been issues with providing textbooks for schools. What do you make of this latest development, Bobby?
Well, I think it's an indictment on our education ministry and those that are in charge of our basic education, because this issue of lack of textbooks has been on for a very, very long time since they introduced the new curriculum. And if till date, close to them writing the exams, they do not have the textbooks, I wonder how the teachers are teaching and how the students are following it. It is something that I think the education ministry and the GS should really prioritize, because if at the basics, the foundation is not strong, then we can imagine what in the next 10 years, these students who have been deprived these basic textbooks, the kind of graduates will be churning out. And so it's a matter that is an indictment, and I think the education ministry and the GS should take the immediate steps, if what the Education Watch group is saying is true, to remedy that situation.
Well, I want to hear your thoughts about the current situation in our education sector, not just about textbooks, also about providing food and other things to boarding houses has also been a problem since last year, as well as, changing of curriculum and all that. What should really be done to stabilize the education sector?
I think, like a lot of sectors in our economy or in our country, we enjoy playing politics with it. Oh, this is this party's idea. This is that party's idea. Oh, we must bring our own ideas so that we will be deemed or seen to have introduced something that we can own. I think that the Constitution states the basic. There must be free basic education for all persons. We are elevating it to the secondary school level. Did we have the necessary resources at the time we decided to do it? Could we have done it in a better way? I have said that I think that the free SHS policy was implemented. The idea is brilliant. Wholesale, I do not really subscribe. It could have been done, I think, in ways that would have reduced the economic impact on the country and then ensured that those that are benefiting from it will actually benefit from it to the best, or would be very efficient and very effective. But it is what it is. We are where we are. I think it will be very difficult for any other political party apart from the MPP to reverse the free SHS. So we've started hearing the word review. I hope that the MPP reviews it going forward. I hope that if NDC gets power to, they will review it. At the end of the day, it must be efficient so that we do not have people suffering. I do not think that education is only about results or grades. I do not think so. I think that education should be holistic. And so if the person gets the best grades, but the person has not been wholly educated, then you have a situation where somebody has passed through the school, but education itself, the person is only book knowledge, but has not been given the full societal education that we need. So that if the schools do not have these resources, they may not be able to invest in other areas of education that would give a holistic education to the students. And so we should look at how we can have a very consistent and certain policy. But it goes the same issue with the National Development Plan. We have a National Development Plan, we invest in it, and then every 5 years or every 4 years or every 8 years, or best when there's a change of government, the National Development Agenda is altered. And you ask yourself, are we not learning from other countries? In Singapore, in the UAE, countries that have development agendas for 50 years, for 20 years. Last time I was thinking, when I was younger, I used to hear Vision 2020. What happened to it? Did we get there? Did we achieve what we will achieve? Okay, do we have another vision, 2030? Do we have, what is our agenda as a country? Where do we expect to be? Have all the political parties signed to it? Is it that it's a collective effort? And if we start thinking that way, a lot of the things that we suffer now should be reduced. But alas, it is what it is, and this is where we are.
Would you allow your children to enter into the basic education system in Ghana?
Like I said, education is holistic. It's not only about the classroom. And so when I get there and I'm of the opinion that the basic education system will not provide them the holistic education that I desire for them, I believe that I will advise myself.
Oh, Bobby, when was the last time you used the Tema Accra motorway?
I used part of it on Tuesday.
Well, then you must have known that reconstruction has commenced on the road.
On Tuesday, I did not see, apart from the overheads they are doing, I did not see. But, you know, the roads start getting worse. And let me tell you this, I am no expert, okay? But I've been thinking of something. I'm no expert. And I stand to be corrected. If I'm wrong, please let the experts educate us on this. You know, when you see the speed with which the motorway has deteriorated over the last, should I say 5 years? I think, and again, I am no expert, but I think that when it rained heavily in the past, you never saw the motorway flooded.
Yes, that's true.
In the past, the motorway never got flooded. But in the last 5 years, whenever it rains heavily, you see the Tema motorway being flooded. Now, let me tell you what I think. Again, I am no expert. And so, you know that stretch of land from the East Legon Tunnel?
Yeah.
That comes from the from the police station, the East Legon police station, up to that first roundabout on that stretch.
Yes.
You know, for years, it was left as a conservative or reserve land? For years. It was only about 5 or 6 years ago, they started developing that stretch of land.
Yes.
Now, those days, when persons applied for permits to do any form of development on that stretch, they were always refused on the basis that it's a conservative, it is left. That when it rains, you know, when you drive on the motorway is a bit high, and those are low lands. So when it rains, the water will now flow, seep down to those places. And because it's a soil, not concrete, they would hold the water so that it will not come back. Now, for some reason, I know there was a court case. I don't know how it ended. There was a court case where the residents on the other side were seeking to prevent the municipal assembly from issuing permits to develop that stretch. I don't know how that court case ended, but you see that in the last times, or in the last 5 years or 6 years, when there have been active concrete development on that stretch, the motorway has started flooding, and the quality of the motorway has deteriorated very, very speedily. I'm a layman, but every time I drive on it, I ask myself those questions. I don't know whether it is because of the development on that stretch. Would the motorway have deteriorated this speedily if those parts had not been developed? Why did we decide to develop a stretch that has been left as a conservatory for over 50 years since independence? And all of a sudden we are developed, and all of us are suffering, I think, because of that. Food for thought.
Well, interesting food for thoughts this morning. Bobby, I'm so delighted and grateful for joining us this morning on the AM show. We are so grateful for her for making time to be with us. Thank you very much. And that's how we wrap up the news review on the AM show. There's more news on myjoyonline.com as well as graphiconline.com as well. But for now, we have sports.